Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to season 2 of Conversations in Pop Culture. And before I introduce my guest, I do want to remind everybody there's a bunch of links up above, including Buy Me a Coffee, and every dollar helps to support this show. So please, click those links. There's an LFC link up there as well, and there's a few pay-per-views that are coming up, and so buy them. And obviously support Shelby. I think you get 30%, right?
Yes.
And so, every 30% matters, and click those links, super important. So obviously one of my favorite people to speak to this year,
Yay.
Shelby
Yay.
Paris, Lingerie Fighting Championship. And I sort of tip my hat a little bit where there's 3 events going on, and I don't know, all in a row. All in a row, it's pretty cheap. I think it's like $25 for all 3 at LFC, and it's LFC Sturgis. And so we're going to be talking a lot about that, but I do want to catch everybody up from our last interview. How'd you get into LFC and all that stuff?
Sorry, I had to walk away real quick. So I got an LFC.
The short version.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Okay, so I fought with Evolved, and then
I enjoyed that fight.
I'm sure a lot of people did.
Buying it tonight, but that's a different discussion.
And then I don't remember who reached out to me first. I think it was Mike that reached out to me and was like, hey, you should reach out to Sean and be a part of LFC. And then I reached out to Sean and it went from there.
And then obviously we spoke about this with the Shelby car, and also your first fight with Jolene Hex and all that stuff. And obviously that sort of surprised a bunch of people. I think a lot of people were not expecting you to bring a fight to her the way you did. And obviously she is one of the champs there. And so we broke a lot of this down, and I don't want to rehash all that, but that's kind of the
I'm full of surprises. That's all.
Yes, you're full of surprises in that regard. And it was a great fight because it was the match right before the main event for those who want to go back and check it out. And then, that's sort of what happened, and really interesting and super, super fun to watch. And so obviously that sort of brings us full here and full center, which is, Sturgis is happening. I don't think it happened last year because of COVID. If I'm correct, you know better, right?
Well, I joined after the Sturgis fight, but I believe it went on. I mean, those bikers, they don't give a shit. They're inevitable. They are, they are strong cookies.
They're the last free basin of America.
Yeah, I love bikers. Like I love how resilient they are to everything. They're like, I don't care.
And so obviously, though, LFC is running 3 events during the middle of Sturgis. And for those who don't know, you're from that area. And so what is this like for you to be returning home and back and fighting? Because you grew up around this area.
I mean, I'm really, really excited. I haven't, so how can I word this? I haven't really enjoyed the rally that much.
So I could ask you this
actually.
question. I'm going to ask you this question because I think it's going to get right to the point. You're young enough that if I ask you your age, it's not going to be offensive.
I turned 30 on Monday.
We're now getting slightly controversial.
30.
But I still think it's not an offensive, question to ask. Where when you were growing up at that point around this, really an 8-9-year-old kid can't go to the Sturgis rally.
Oh, we still did. I mean, it's open to the public. Literally, like you can't go to bars, but that does not stop most of the bikers. They let everything hang out and have fun and drink, And literally, when I say everything hang out, I mean like literally everything. Chaps and all.
So this is already going in a bad direction. Because everybody has that in the back of their head now. If you were going to sell Sturgis, this is exactly how to do it. So obviously, though, when you say you haven't really enjoyed it, obviously there's a difference of enjoying it when you're 21, 25 versus when you're 10 years old. And obviously, if you haven't been back home for a while, this is kind of the first round of doing it. So what is that like for you?
I'm excited, honestly. I mean, I still snuck into the bars when I was like 18, 19. I didn't really care, but it's going to be a different experience, especially because so we leave on the 10th, so a day after my birthday. And that's just like, I'm really excited. I'm going to celebrate my 30s in Sturgis.
And so obviously I've never been to Sturgis. I am not a motorcycle guy. I like motorcycles. I tend to like cars. I like things that, go vroom vroom, and I like, fast vehicles. But what is the environment like of Sturgis for those who don't know?
Partiers. Literally partiers. You party for a full week. That's all you do. It's party. You drink, party, go to concerts, party some more, sleep maybe like 2 hours, then go party some more.
And then obviously even going further into this, because LFC, I think they were there last year with Sturgis and doing something at that event, because obviously there's all these clips of people coming to the ring in motorcycles and all that stuff. And so what is this like? Because you have a bunch of fights coming up, and so what is it like? Because LFC is a perfect companion for Sturgis, and it's just the right amount of crowd, obviously, the entire
Yeah.
So what is going through your head for that?
I mean, it's going to be exciting. I'm nervous, but I'm like super, super excited. I believe they had like other fights too. I've been to one during Sturgis. So it's like, there's definitely like a lot of fighting going on during Sturgis, both on the ring and off the ring.
And obviously there's a lot of like theatrics, and I'm pretty sure everybody's going to be coming to the ring in motorcycles to some degree, and it's also very much, from my understanding, outside, where your last fight was inside. And so what is that like to be able to even have a fight outside? I think is how it's
I'm going to die of heat. I don't think people realize how hot it gets in Sturgis, or in South Dakota. So you're dealing with the humidity. You're dealing with about 100 degrees of heat, which turns out to be 120. Like, it gets hot, and people forget that. And it's like, no, it's not like dry desert heat, which is what I'm used to. It is dry, humid. I mean, it's humid heat, which is like 20 times worse.
Yeah, that's something that I think people don't understand. And so obviously I interview a bunch of wrestlers, is that there was a bunch of shows out on the boardwalk in Atlantic City. And people don't understand that it's a beyond ring, and the ring is black. And it's 90 degrees outside, but it's not 90 degrees in the ring. It's a hell of a lot hotter in the ring. And so it's kind of a crazy thing, not to mention you're doing something in a physical activity, not to mention that, other things happen. And, well, there's obviously lights, and there's a lot of, pyro, and there's a lot of people around to some degree. If you come in on a motorcycle, well, motorcycles get hot very quickly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're dealing, so during the rally, you're dealing with all the exhausts. You're dealing with the engine heat. So Sturgis alone normally only has, give or take, like 5,000 to 6,000 people generally, and you're putting over 1 million people in one small town. Like, it is a clusterfuck. It is so like bad. It's like putting New York into a small town. It's gonna be interesting.
And it's also a very rally-driven crowd. It's a very, very hopped-up crowd where obviously everybody's there for a reason. Everybody has, motorcycles, or is a motorcycle.
They have their own gangs.
And obviously, that's the other thing too, is that the people that are going to be there obviously are there for a reason, and it's that type of thing also.
Yeah.
And so obviously we sort of beat around the bush with everything that's going on in the environment. And well, you're fighting Brooke Gilly, I think.
Yes. I'm
And
fighting Brooke and I'm fighting Jezebel.
And so we're going to talk about both those fights. So obviously, Brooke, I think, is coming off of her first win, and you're coming
Yes.
off of a loss. And
Yeah. I will take that loss, though, because that was such a good fight.
and so I thoroughly enjoyed the fight, but it's this idea that, you're coming off of a loss. She has a win, but you're both brand new. Where you're brand new, you're both extremely green. You've had one fight apiece, and obviously your styles are a little bit different. And so, what is this like? Because I think you're a brawler, and she's more of a jiu-jitsu. And unless I mixed that up, did I mix that up?
No, you're correct. I mean, I've been taking some jiu-jitsu, so she can go ahead and try to beat me with my legs. My legs are strong.
So what is this like? Because obviously, you're coming off of a great fight, but the experience level for both of you is so new. And like, what are you doing to prep up? Because obviously, this is very much an equal fight. It is really going with it.
I've just been trying to practice some more moves, like just keep up to date with them, and I've been trying to work out more and do more like walking on the treadmill, but more not walking, like more like jogging on the treadmill, because you're dealing with the heat. Like, I have to build up my stamina. I'm gonna die.
and even this idea that there's going to be a lot of people at this event. Well, there's a million people in Sturgis for this event. Even that also must be playing something, because there's going to be a lot of people at this event. I don't know if the last fight had people in the audience or if it was crowdless.
I think there was people in the audience from what I remember seeing on the thing, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. I can't say.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the fight with Jolene.
Oh, there's a small crowd. It really wasn't much.
And so obviously this is going to be also a bigger crowd. So what is that like coming into this? Because
I'm going to be so nervous. I was already nervous with a few people. Now there's going to be like a bunch of people. I'm going to be a nervous wreck. You can see it on my face until I hit the ring, and then, it's my serious face. But, oh, God, it's going to be entertaining.
And so obviously, I mean, this isn't a very even fight. It's going to be very fascinating. And the only advantage to dealing with the heat is that you're going to be in less clothes than normal, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
And then obviously it's going to be a wild crowd. And then the other fight you're going to be in is with Jezebel.
Mm-hmm. And she does mainly a lot of wrestling.
And so obviously, is Jezebel a session wrestler as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she is. I believe she's the owner of Lucha Girls.
And so what is that like to come into that? Because obviously I'm not as familiar with Jezebel.
I have fought her before, and she's actually really fun to fight with. So I'm really excited for another fight.
And so obviously, I mean, there's also somewhat of a clash of style, and obviously Jezebel has a lot of experience. Obviously, Lucha Girls does a lot of custom work, and that's a whole big industry in of itself. And so obviously, what is that like for you to have this fight? Because it's very different it's going to be different from your Jolene fight. It's going to be different from, your first fight, which was his name, from your Brooke Gilly fight, and this fight's also going to be different. So what is that like to even prepare for that? Because it's also a different mental game when you're dealing with somebody who is a very active wrestler.
Well, I mean, I fought her before, so I'm not too worried at all. She's actually really fun to fight with. I am nervous for like some of her moves, because she is quick on her feet. Like, some of the moves she does, I'm like, I don't know how you did that, but all right, I'll take that.
And also, though, it must be nice from an LFC position because you're coming in from Jolene, which was a very, very hot, almost sort of to the top of the mountain, having an even fight, and then sort of swinging back up into Jezebel, and also having an experienced fighter. Because my philosophy in life, the way you get better, especially in anything, because I used to spar and I used to do martial arts, is that, well, you got to fight somebody better than you and bigger than you so you get better. And in many ways, you fighting, Jezebel and even Jolene was sort of that iron sharpening iron. And so what is that like for you? Because they're giving you some serious competition in, your next 2 fights. They're giving you even competition, and they're giving you sort of a step above type situation. And that's kind of cool as well. And I think it's also because obviously you came out running and gunning against Jolene.
I mean, it'll be fun. It'll be worth it. I like learning from people who are more experienced. So regardless of who wins or loses, like I'm excited to fight regardless.
And then obviously it's just going to be fun. And obviously there's a lot of good fights going on. And then there's a lot of other stuff going on with LFC, where one of the things that I kind of want to back out a little bit of the fighting and talk about LFC is that LFC is a really weird brand because it's really good wrestling. And it has somewhat of a stigma. And I don't know if you knew who I was interviewing before, but I was interviewing Ralph Tedesco from Zenoscope legitly about 30 minutes ago. And we were sort of speaking about this on the comic realm, where they do, cheesecake comic covers. And they do something called D-Ray, which are topless covers. And they get a bad rap for it, but their comics and writing is really well done. And that's what I feel that LFC is. And a lot of stuff is going on with them right now. And one of the things is that they're sort of developing a new team. And I know you're still part of the black team.
Yep,
but
I am.
What is that like? Because that adds a whole nother, rung into the entire, things that are going on with teams and even more fighters and even more styles and even more coaches. And so what is that like for you, knowing that, hey, another team's being built out? Because it obviously adds, another, wingspan into that company.
I mean, we'll see. I haven't met the other coach yet, so I mean, we'll see how it goes.
Are you trying to get yourself traded?
No, I'm fine. I'm happy with my black team. I'm a Panther. I like staying loyal.
And then the other thing, and obviously I think the blue team is going to be very interesting. I also think it's going to be cool to have another coach in there and have, another style and also another whole, realm of that team. And I just think it's cool that this is expanding in a lot of ways, this company in that regard. And then even going further outward, they've also done a bunch of prospect stuff that now is happening. And they've just sort of, I guess, had a whole voting tournament bringing up a bunch of new fighters, I guess, to have things. And so what is that like? Because there's a bunch of new people coming in, and obviously you're new, but then there's a bunch of other people who are trying to get in as well. And LFC obviously has had a lot of people. Some of them have wrestled all over the world for it, and some of them are still wrestling all over the world, like Katie Forbes, obviously. Jolene has done a lot of stuff. Jen Thomas is another one. And then there's been plenty of other people who have come in and out of that company who have wrestled for places like, Impact Wrestling and Rockstar Pro Wrestling and WWE and all sorts of stuff. And so what is this like for you, knowing that there's a whole bunch of new people coming in?
Yeah, I mean, we shall see how it goes. I mean, I'm excited for all the new fighters. I welcome everyone.
Yeah, no. And even for that, because obviously it opens up a lot of doors, I feel, for you with that, where it's this idea that, now if a bunch of new fighters come in, well, now you're going to have more competition and more possibilities with people who you can fight and scrap with and go to war with and things like that. So, and have matches with. And so that's sort of cool with this as well.
Yeah, it'll be, I don't know. It'll be exciting.
I have a feeling you have your eye on a few of the people in that prospect tournament that you wanted a few matches with.
Yeah, I have quite a few. I haven't looked at the roster, but yeah, there's a lot. of people I want to sink my claws into.
And even going further out of this, because obviously you do some session wrestling outside and some custom wrestling, and and so what is that like? Because one of the things that I've been saying, and I understand, is that there are three things that dictate, society and are going to dictate entertainment. It's on demand, it's big libraries, or it's customization. And so obviously, LFC is streaming. Those three matches are streaming, which is sort of the on-demand / live streaming element. And then obviously they have had, I think, 32 events or 33 events so far. And then they have a bunch of content. And then even going further, with custom wrestling and where people determine the matches, match stipulations, who wins, who loses, obviously that is a lot of control for people to do and have things the way they want to have it. And so obviously you've done a bunch of that stuff, and then you've done, I think things that might have not been necessarily custom ordered, but obviously, clips for sales. And so what has that been like? Because that's the other side of wrestling that I think doesn't get spoken about. And LFC is somewhat of a cousin to that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, they have some other big projects coming up that'll like be live and everything, so I'm excited for everyone to see that too, besides the pay-per-view.
Yeah, and then obviously just the custom stuff is super interesting that you're involved in, and that stuff, because I do think that it's very cool when people like myself and obviously in the wrestling world and in the fighting world and in the boxing world, it's a lot of power when fans get to control certain clips and get to request certain endings in certain fights. And obviously you work for Lucha Girls, and they've done a bunch of that stuff. And so what is that like for you? Because you know who Allie Parker is.
I know who is.
Do you know who Allie Parker is?
I recognize the name, but I'm not sure.
So Allie Parker used to fight for LFC, and she does a lot of custom wrestling clips.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, Jezebel that runs Lucha Girl, and so what is that like to wrestle for them and be involved with them and all that stuff?
I mean, I like the customs; they're fun. They're a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know who Allie really works for, like for customs and stuff. I know with Jezebel, it was exciting, a super smooth process, and plus, doing all the custom work for the guys is fun. I love creating stuff for the fans.
And obviously, you create a lot of stuff. And what my understanding of custom wrestling is that a bunch of things get filmed all at once with custom wrestling and all that stuff. So obviously, that's something that is very cool to that degree. And so I love the idea of customization and getting to choose what you want to do and how you want to do it and why you want to do it and all that stuff, because it is super cool. And then obviously do some other custom stuff as well.
Yeah, there was. Man, I can't remember the last custom I did. I do have one coming up. I'm really excited for that one. That one's in October. I am excited for that one.
Is it wrestling related or is it something else related?
Yeah, it's wrestling related.
And so there's a bunch of stuff in that regard as well with customs. And so obviously, and also you get to work with a lot of very interesting people, because obviously for those who don't know, Session Girls is run by Jen Thomas. And it's the whole idea of it's session wrestling. And you could book essentially a session with somebody, and then you could grapple wrestle, and you could go competitive, non-competitive, and it's a whole entity. And then that also can spin out into customs and then all sorts of other stuff. And so where do you even see all this stuff going? Because obviously LFC and custom wrestling, I think it's getting bigger than ever.
Oh yeah, LFC's going big. There's no doubt about it. No doubt.
And so, and also, obviously they do a lot of other stuff as well. And the things that they do beyond that wrestling is that they're not just a wrestling company or a fighting company. They're also very much a media company, where I know that they've done some, reality style shows, and then also they post a lot of photos, they do some interview stuff. And so what is that like for you? Because it's obviously a big, platform, because they post like the top 10 sexiest pictures of the week off of, everybody's Instagram. And obviously what's that like? Because you do some stuff outside of LFC. We're going to talk about it in a second.
I mean, I like how they do the top 10 hottest picks, our top 5 hottest picks of the week. I don't remember what they do, but they pick out a bunch of pictures. I like seeing them because then I can see other models as well that are involved with LFC. Because I'm like, oh, hey, I want to wrestle her.
And that's the thing about LFC is that it attracts a lot of very interesting people, where you have people who, and I said this before, but you've had people who have gone into WWE who are in LFC. You have people who've gone into Impact. You have just models. You have people who have somewhat MMA backgrounds. Actually, you have people from the adult industry in there. And you have people who you never heard of per se in there as well. And you get a very interesting mixture of people and ideologies and how to structure a fight and how to do certain things. And obviously, that creates a lot of creativity when you have a lot of different people moving things around and they have their own ideas. If you put you, Julian Hex, and I know Luscious Latasha was just in that, prospect thing, all together in a room, all three of you come from very different walks of lives.
Yes,
and you all
very.
have ways to structure a fight, and it's very cool and different styles, and it's super, super interesting.
Yeah, no, it'll be, it's very interesting. It'll be fun.
And then now I want to back out of LFC, and I do want to talk about some of the other stuff that you're doing, because obviously you are a model in a lot of ways, and you've done a bunch of magazine shoots, and you've done a bunch of other things. And so obviously, I don't have your whole model career, but, I teased it a little bit, but with LFC, you came in with a Shelby car, and we spoke about that, but you've done a bunch of other stuff since then. And so how'd you get into modeling is what I'm curious about.
So I actually first got into modeling, and then I went into the industry, the adult industry. And it's just like all interlingers together because your entertainment.
And so obviously there's a lot of stuff that goes into modeling where, obviously there's magazine shoots, there's, just, being on websites, obviously calendars. And so what was it like? Because I know that, I think LFC was your first calendar shoot, which is a big deal. And then I know
it was.
And so obviously, I mean, it was very cool in that. I know Terry was, very helpful in that shoot to some degree, who was sort of the LFC mom, I think. And so obviously, and then even coming out of that, because I think you've done some poster stuff beyond that. I don't know if you had another calendar shoot yet.
Not with LFC. I think that's in October, I believe. Yeah, it is. I have to think. What else have I done? I was on the in a Hustler magazine. That was actually one of my first magazines. So
to celebrate and commemorate Larry Flint, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I was in it in January of 2020, I believe. I don't remember.
Obviously, Hustler is very much like Playboy, except it's much more raunchier. And I think everyone knows what Hustler is. But also, Hustler is one of those great American magazines like Screwed, and it's one of like the last freestanding magazines out there. And so, what was that like to be involved in that, and even how did that come about? Because it is a big deal when you're a model, and obviously you're in the industry, and that it's big name recognition, and it gets circulated around to certain groups, and it is something that's cool. So, how did that come about for you?
I had some connections, um, and they submitted some photos to Hustler, and that's what had happened.
And then obviously, because all this stuff is connected, where it's the idea that your brand in many ways when you get into Hustler magazine, but then you're an LLC, then you're in the LLC calendar, and then you're doing another magazine. All of a sudden, when you're fighting at a pay-per-view, a lot of people recognize you,
Mm-hmm.
and that's super important from a brand standpoint. So obviously, that is extremely important. So what is that like for you when you're getting more and more circulation and getting
Sorry, I'm plugging my laptop in.
and getting obviously more attention and people recognizing your name, because when they recognize your name from LFC, and then Hustler comes up and they do a Google search, obviously that drives traffic to that, and then vice versa, and just keep building the brand out.
I mean, it's kind of. Sorry, I want to go in. I was struggling.
That's what she said.
Yeah, that is that. Yeah.
There are so many jokes I can make out of that. I could have an hour
I knew it was coming
on that alone. I don't know if I would be permitted in half the social circles if we kept going on that joke alone. But also, if you'd like, I have an opening at Thunder Mifflin. Oh, that was walking right into it.
Yeah, I did. So it's weird having people recognize you. You start to get used to it after a while, but being recognized kind of thing, just being a female alone is an experience, because there are so many guys that will stare at you, they'll hound you, they'll do anything. So yeah, and even if they don't know your name, it doesn't even matter. Like they'll still, they'll be like, "Oh, you're hot," and just hit up your DMs. You're like, why? Like, what's the point of this? Especially if they clearly know you're taken and they still do that, and you're like, God, this is ridiculous. You don't have a chance.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, I don't stand a chance. I know exactly what I'm perfectly happy, I have a nice can of beer and I'll be perfectly fine in my life. Anyway, but it is very interesting, actually, and this is something that's super interesting because we're about to get controversial. Obviously, every female wrestler deals with things differently. I don't know if you know who Jordan Grace is.
I believe I do. I recognize the name. Like, you say these, until I see their face, I won't be able to be like, oh yeah, I do know her.
So Jordan Grace basically sort of published an entire book of all the DM messages she got from people. And now I slide into people's DMs, not to ask them if they're taken or not, but say, hey, can I interview you? So I'm not in that book. If I was in that book asking that question, I'd be flattered. But how do you deal with that? Because it is interesting, because obviously LFC sort of invites, or suggests certain behaviors, for lack of a better word. And I know it's not politically correct. I'm sure there's 15 better words, and I'm probably going to get attacked for some of this. But how do you deal with that, and how do you sort of address that? Because obviously, it happens in WWE, it happens in Impact, it happens in AEW, but then we go all the way down to the other side, it happens as well. So how do you deal with that? Because it is a big issue right now.
I don't mind if people come and talk to me. I just don't like being touched. I've had that happen a few times where before asking me if it's okay, they still came up and they touched me inappropriately at that. Like, I don't mind hugs if you ask for them, because I'm not very a huggy person until like I actually know you, or if it's like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't like to be touched all the time. So as long as like I get approached nicely and like they say hi and stuff, I don't mind. But if you touch me, I'm gonna either say something or I'm just going to slap you. It's whatever reaction is going to come first.
I pay to see that. But anyway, even going further, because obviously the online world is very, very interesting, and people slide in and out of DMs. I mean, you follow me on Twitter, and whenever I shoot you a message on your DM, I'm usually asking for an interview. But obviously, I'm a professional, and there's a lot of people who are not professional. And so,
Yep.
how do you deal with that? Because as I was stating, Jordan Grace deals with it by publicly publishing a Quinn Black from I'm probably getting her name wrong, or Quinn McKay from Ring of Honor just publicly has done this, and has blasted people and other wrestlers who are trying to do it who are married. And so everybody deals with that differently on the internet. And it is interesting how you deal with it, in which that, obviously dealing with it in person is very different from dealing with it online.
I mean, even in person though, like as long as, hey, like you talk to me before you touch me, I don't care.
because my view on this is that everybody sort of speaks and is ballsy online. And I have this issue where I get into disagreements on things that aren't anywhere near what you're dealing with and what you get, but like people call me out on comic book issues, and I'm like, hey, you want to talk about it live on the air? And we're behind computers, and people don't want to do this. So I mean, my view is that I find that people tend to be less ballsy in person, and they tend to be very much keyboard warriors. And so this is sort of just shocking a little bit to me that people would even, because I just asked somebody, hey, can I get like a selfie with you? Like it's just mind blowing to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind selfies, but it just kind of depends on my mood.
And so obviously I just think that that's mind blowing and all that stuff. And so that's kind of crazy in my world. So obviously that I can't believe that happens. Is my point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not bothered.
I mean, if you're slapping people,
That's only if you touch me, though. Like, just don't touch me.
I mean, did you like give a warning first? Did you just like go right to slapping? Because I really want to see.
It's just if you touch me inappropriately, yeah, I'm gonna slap you. Like that's just it's a response. It just happens.
I really want to see this. Like I'd pay good money to see it. Like,
yeah,
I've never seen a woman slap a guy in my life. I've never seen it.
I've done it a lot.
I'm just saying, I've never seen it. So. But anyway, I hope it doesn't happen because it's not a good thing. But obviously, one of the things that's very cool about you, even going beyond all that and that tangent, is that you are starting to gain a lot of attention. Whether you're modeling for LC, obviously they're doing another calendar shoot coming up, fight for that. 2 big fights coming up, possibly a third, I think. Because anything could happen. And over the 3 days, and then obviously I think LSU runs quarterly now, or runs whatever they can.
Yeah, I have.
What?
You said word of kin? Sorry, my mic broke out.
No. Does LSU run quarterly, or whenever they can?
I don't know.
Because obviously you fought, I think, in May or June, the last one, and then obviously the fight, or maybe it was March, I don't know, or April. Wow, I'm so bad at this. My memory is like shot right now because the last LFC event was around, I think, Mania, right? Weekend, which was in April.
Yeah, I don't think they do stuff quarterly.
And then what winds up happening is that, then obviously they're going in August, and then I don't know when the next one is. I'll see.
I'm trying to think. I think there's one in September or October. From what I understand, it's whenever they have locations available or fights available, they'll book it.
And so obviously, and the reason I bring all this up is that it's the idea that, with you gaining a lot of attention and obviously being, involved with Facing Jolene, and then obviously in Hustler, and then modeling, and then obviously the calendar. And so, obviously you're getting a lot of attention and bringing a lot of people to watch you fight. And so it's kind of very cool to that point where you're, and I said this before, where it's this idea that, your brand is increasing. And so it's really cool. And I would imagine you're getting awesome opportunities also with modeling beyond just, doing things, and obviously in other projects as well. So what is that like? And obviously you've done a bunch of other projects. I'm not familiar with every single one of your projects beyond outside of the ring that you've been involved in.
I'm in a lot of projects off and on.
But obviously some of them are really fun, where we're like, modeling and being in magazines and on posters and in calendars and on websites. It's very cool to be involved in that. Not to mention that, prior to really LFC, you weren't doing much of that, and then sort of the door just broke open for you in a lot of ways in the last, I think, 2 years for the most part.
I can't list all what I've done outside of work. I've just done a lot. So I really like the difference of LFC compared to like everything else that I've done or am doing.
and yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with you. And it's cool though, because you're staying busy, and obviously given the fact that, all of 2020 was a nightmare with COVID. And the fact that you did a lot, I think, in 2020, and then you've done, I think, even more so far in 2021. And I don't know where you're located as far as what state you're in, or central or time zone you're in, but I'm on the East Coast, and things are opening up. But I think it's similar where the East Coast and the West Coast, things are opening up, but things are sort of returning back to normal, but they're not back to normal. And obviously you've had a crazy, phenomenal year in everything that you're doing. And so what has that been like, where in a really shitty year in 2020 and 2021, obviously a lot of opportunities have come your way, and a lot of things that probably, hopefully they would have happened if COVID didn't hit, but they still happened with COVID hitting. And it's sort of very cool. And so what has that been like for you, knowing that it's been a disastrous, 18, 19, 20 months, and you're sort of thriving?
Yeah, I'm trying to thrive as much as I can.
But you're in LFC, you were in Hustler, you did a calendar shoot, you've done a bunch of other modeling things, you've done a bunch of custom, videos and matches. And obviously, when it's a shitty year and you're doing all right, and you're getting something accomplished, and I'll just speak from my position, in 2020, I did 90 interviews. This year, I'm around probably 107 or 110 at this point. And I got, 5 months left to interview. I'm accomplishing something, and it's very important, because a lot of people aren't accomplishing anything. Most people didn't accomplish anything in 2020. And you did. So what is that like, that a bunch of opportunities came your way?
It was unexpected, and I'm really thankful for it. But I really haven't done too much like pre or during COVID. I don't know. I guess everything's like blurred together. I'm like, is it still COVID season? It feels like it's always been COVID season, because I never leave the house ever.
Well, if you don't have to leave your house, then you probably shouldn't. I live in DC. I didn't leave my apartment for 3 months because my groceries were delivered before. Because when you're in a city, it's just easier, because the closest grocery store is a metro ride away, and hopefully can pay like two times what you would pay at ShopRite. So I'd order my groceries. Then if I want to take out, it would come to the bottom of my door, and then I could post the person, and then they would drop it off right in front of my door. Then I had video games and Netflix. And I was in between work, so great. So, and even if I was working, I'd be working from home, and so there's no good reason to leave my house for 3 months. The closest I left my house was looking outside to get my mail, which was inside my apartment building, and it was phenomenal. Yeah. And so the first time I left my apartment for the first time in COVID in 2020 was in June. I'm like, this is what outside looks like. This is exactly what it looks like.
You're like, what? What is this?
This is new. This is exciting. This is a blast to that point. So obviously, very, very interesting. And then, but I got stuff done in my apartment. And so this is something that I think is great about you, is that you got a bunch of stuff done, and then when things sort of lightened up, you got a bunch of stuff going on as well. Yeah. So very, very cool. So that's a great. And so obviously, that's something that's cool. And I know you got a bunch of other stuff that's going on. So obviously, and I'm curious, I'm going to give you a second to promote it, but where do you even think things are going? Because obviously nobody gives a fucking Sturgis about COVID, as you stated, because it's a bunch of bikers. And I know you dig bikers. But obviously, where do you think it's even going with everything that's happening? Because we got this Delta variant, and where do you think the rest of the year is going, and even how people are going to be reacting come, January, February, and going into March and April, because obviously you're in a very people-oriented industry.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think we'll still be shut down for a while. But who knows? It's evolving.
Fair enough. And now, as I sort of stated, you got a lot of stuff going on. Obviously LFC, Sturgis, those 3 nights. You got 2 fights going on, possibly a third. We're keeping our fingers crossed. And as I stated before, I think it's like $25. And obviously I put the link up to LFC, and then you can pick your fighter who you want to give, 30% to. Obviously, that's a really good way how to support people. I know you got some modeling stuff going on. Obviously, where can people find you and book customs? And book other things and check out some of the stuff you're doing with everything you're going on, or modeling gigs or magazines, or pick up certain things. So obviously, what's going on and all that stuff.
I mean, it's been picking up some, but I'm still not doing much. I'm still mainly just staying home.
So where can people find you? Because I know that you're on Twitter. I know that you're on, I don't know if you have an Instagram, but obviously LFC is a big thing. And
all of my social medias are real Shelby Paris. Literally everything. If you just search that name, even if you just Google my name, Shelby Paris, you'll find everything of me, like all my social medias.
And then obviously, you even going further off of that, because LFC, and then how can people obviously support you? Because there's a million ways people can support you, whether that's doing the LFC thing, obviously following you on Twitter, following you on Instagram, and then also a variety of other things. So where can people support you, and what's the best way how to support you?
You can join my OnlyFans. Obviously. When you go to LFC, pick me. Or you can just follow me on social media. I know money is tight for a lot of people. Just, follow me on social media. That's better than nothing.
Or what it is, if somebody wants to, they can just give you or me their credit card, and we'll take what we need.
Yeah, that too.
I'm more than happy to do that. So if somebody wants to say, hey, man, here's my credit card. You decide what's fair. I'm totally down for that. In fact, I encourage that. Now, if you do that, the risk is on you, but not you, but the person who obviously sends it. So I think that'd be an appropriate response to everybody. And so obviously, having said all that, obviously I already ordered the Sturgis thing, and I backed you, and I picked you. So 30%. even though I love other people like Emma Cross. Obviously, I picked you because obviously, I really enjoy doing this. And then obviously, even going further down the road, wow, I just lost my train of thought. This is so bad. I'm trying to promote you, and this is not going well. Obviously, as I was stating, it's this idea that you have to support indie wrestlers. You have to support people like you. And the way you do that is, A, buy the UFC thing and give the 30%. Obviously, check out the OnlyFans. ManyVids is another one, I believe, that you're on. And then there's a variety of other things. Obviously, following on Twitter, Instagram, checking out, retweeting when you're actually fighting. That's a big one, too. Actual social engagement, actually sharing the LFC event outward, because obviously people watching makes a big difference. And then, all that stuff is super important. Buy me a coffee, everybody, because this show needs that support as well. And yeah, those are the best ways how to support. And, you might think, oh, I can't afford to go support somebody economically right now, but following somebody on Twitter and Instagram and sharing it out goes a super long way. And it is super, super important, because you don't know who's going to be checking something out and who's going to be interested in something, and it might not even come across their desk or their feed. So obviously that's something that I'm encouraging everybody to do. But seriously, go spend the $25 and pick Shelby for that thing. When you get the referral box, it goes a long way, and it makes a huge difference on that point. And I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed about that fights. And those fights, I think, are what, the 13th, 14th, and 15th, I want to say? Or is it the 12th, 13th, and 14th?
12th, 13th, and 14th.
I was off by a day. So obviously it doesn't interfere with anything major in wrestling, and I don't think anybody's going to be upset, and it's pretty good. It's cheaper than GCW. So there you go, and it's women fighting in pretty much no clothes. So obviously I don't think anybody can be upset about that. And on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
Well, just follow me on all my social medias and support me on hopefully winning these 2 fights. I'm referring the last fight, and I'm really nervous about that. So if I do anything clumsy, it's okay to laugh at me. It happens. But I hope you guys have a good day or night, whatever.
Well, I think on that note, hopefully none of us are going to make fun of you. And hopefully,
it's okay if you do. I do not care.
And hopefully you're going to win both those fights, and we're looking forward to that. And I believe that is a wrap.
All right.